Hello and welcome to this recording where I'm going to talk about perfectionism. I welcome you into this space and I hope that you will learn something and that the content that I present to you resonates with you on a deep soul level. And this resonance creates a desire to change and to express your authenticity fuller every day, all day. I'm Simone and I'm life coach and spiritual enthusiast at Emerald Connection Life Coaching, and I help clients to build confidence, to shed old programming and self-doubt in order to express their authenticity unapologetically and without fear. Let's dive in. I used to be a very proud perfectionist, but no more. And I deemed perfection as a positive trait. Little did I know that it was actually as a result of issues that I had. I wasn't aware of the underlying currents that drove this need for perfectionism. And I wore the label very proudly when I would sit in on job interviews and I would express, when people ask me what are your strengths and what are the value that you can bring to this company, and I would very proudly state I'm a perfectionist. Whereas if someone says that to me today, I would add a pinch of salt, because I know now what drives the perfection. So let's get into that. In my case, it was a lot around proving that I am of value, not accepting my inherent value and that I bring value in whatever I do, but needing to prove it, needing to prove that I'm good enough, that I'm better than good enough, and that I have value to bring. And look, I can do this better than anybody else. And this perfectionism was fueled by this lack of self-esteem, by this lack of self-confidence, and this need for external approval. And this drove me to be confrontational, because my way or the other highway, and especially at work, because there's one way to do things and that's the right thing the first time, etc. And I'm not saying don't try and do something right, by all means, but it should not be, the goal should not be perfectionism, because perfection is actually subjective. And I always say to my clients, when we talk about this issue around perfection, I say to them, I use the example, imagine we as a friend and I go to a restaurant, and it's say Indian restaurant, because I love Indian food. And I enjoy the meal, and somebody asks me afterwards, how was your meal? It was perfect. Flavors and it was just perfect. So that's my evaluation of the meal and the experience. However, my friend, who doesn't quite enjoy food on the very spicy side, did not find this meal very perfect. So you see, it is subjective. So what I deem to be perfect will not be perfect for somebody else. So you're basically chasing a moving target. It's never going to be good enough for anybody else if that is what you are driven by. I hope that this point that I'm trying to make really sinks in and it resonates with you, it is a matter of when I do something, I'll do it to the best of my ability, the best I know how. But I'm not driven by that need for approval externally. I'm not driven by that need to prove that I can do it, that I am worth, and that I have value. I do it because I like to do things properly and correctly. That's the way I'm wired. So checking on what the motivation is very important. So now I do things from a growth mindset perspective, where I might do something and discover later, oh, I forgot to do this, or I didn't include this, or I can actually do that a little better because I've learned something new along the way. Maybe a new video that I watched and it's helped me with some technical skill. And this process of rejigging things and redefining things is growth. It's not a lack of perfection. So I don't strive for perfection anymore. I see the perfection in whatever it is that there is in that particular moment. So when you look at doing things, look at the motivator. What is driving me to want to be perfect? And we tire ourselves out. We drain ourselves emotionally because we're trying to fit something that is externally defined for us. It doesn't work. Express yourself. Express your authenticity. Express the way you do things, not the way you are expected to do things. And when you start gaining and building confidence in that expression of yourself, that need for perfection just fizzles out, it fades away, because your motivators are different. I've just scratched the surface of this thing called perfectionism. And it is a series of topics, that you can look at from different angles, and it is something that will always come up in conversations, in content that I prepare for you. So this is just the start. So I encourage you, look within and ask yourself, when I'm striving for perfection, what is that thing that is driving me, that is motivating me? Because in that way, you will reach the undercurrent. You will reach that commitment that you have under the surface to what is driving your need for perfection. And remember, we are programmed from childhood that is a certain way to do things, and you should do it like this, and what will so and so say, and what will the community say if you do it this and this and this way. I said to a friend yesterday, we need to change that programming. And if you think about it in computer terms, how do you change programming? You change the code. You might want to keep certain parts of the code intact because that works, but certain elements of that code may need to change, and you plant new code that is of benefit to you, and everything that doesn't serve you any longer is taken out of that program. So ask yourself, what is driving me? And on that note, I leave you. And if you want to attend my masterclass that I'm hosting on the 15th of February this year, 2024, in Cape Town, in Pinelands, then join us, because this is part of the conversation. And if this is something that you really struggle with and you're actually not quite sure what is driving me, what's my motivator, come to this masterclass. because I do a very powerful exercise with the participants of how to actually get to the undercurrents that is driving this. Because only once you know what those undercurrents are, what those motivators are that are driving that behavior and that need for perfection, will you be able to change the program? Will you be able to recreate the story? So join us. It's going to be fun. It's going to be lovely. It's going to be a communal thing. And, you're not alone. You're never alone. And let's do this. Let's do this. I'll leave the link in the description below if you want to get a ticket. And the early bird closes, I think, the 28th of January. So there's some early bird tickets still available. Join us. And even if it's just to take some time out, come and have some fun with us. I look forward to talking to you again on the next video. I'm not quite sure yet what the content is. I go with intuition. I go with the inspiration that comes up, when things come into my experience and into my consciousness. And that is what I talk about. But if you have questions that you want me to answer and that you want me to explore, put them in the comments below. And that can be part of the content that I create for you. And it will be lovely to have a Q&A session. And so see you next time. I can talk for hours on this subject matter, so I'm going to leave you there. I intended for this video to be at maximum 7 minutes, and I see we're going for 12. So I'll see you next time. Keep shining.